Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Monday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers bounce back with an easy win on Sunday. It just kind of makes me angrier about what happened on Friday. That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everyone for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcast. It's always free, never behind a paywall. That is very important because we all have enough expenses these days. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to hang out with over 22,000 subscribers, all of whom are pleased with Sunday's results, but like me, probably more annoyed about Friday now than they were before. Lots to get into, Andy, today. Regarding this game and where the Lakers are going from here, what they do with D'Angelo Russell, who continues to play well, but do want to let people know that today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I don't know. I mean, look, this was essentially, like, in a lot of ways, like a do-over for Friday. Friday obviously still counts, the horribly embarrassing collapse against the Nets, but it was like, okay, try again with another terrible team coming to your home floor and see what you can do. And this time the Lakers managed to do it right.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting trying to think about what the actual takeaways from this game are, just because on one hand, you cannot take any win for granted with this Lakers squad. Not because I think they don't have at least some baseline degree of, level of talent, because I think they do. And I think there is a good, if not necessarily great as they need to be, team in there. But we've seen that they do not put it together in ways that benefit themselves nearly enough. So, yeah, it's nice to know that they beat the Blazers by 24 points, and it may not be necessarily impressive, but at the same time, there's nothing that you can look at that and say, well, clearly that means we've turned a corner, or clearly this is about to start another run. Like, I've seen a lot of comments on the YouTube section that we've been cheerleading the team and then they end up having like a disappointing loss. I'm like, I don't exactly know what show that is. I think we've been excited when there's been a good win against like the Clippers or against the Mavericks, or as far as recent ones go, because why wouldn't you be excited that they just beat a good team? But we've never declared the Lakers him per se. Like we've been pretty grounded when it comes to that stuff.
No, and you talk about turning corners. It's like at this point, like it's just.
I mean, maybe the stretch during the IST, but to be fair, they looked really good.
And they were winning a lot of games. They were, they won like 10 of 13 or something at that point.
And they looked really good.
But like, you talk about, the possibility of turning a corner. It's like, I don't even know. Like, you ever see those pictures of like the drive into Death Valley, where it's just like one really straight road, like for a long ass time. Like, that's kind of what the Lakers, like, there is no, like, I don't know where the corner is to turn. And, you talk about why aren't there takeaways to this game? And I think that's where like Friday plays into it. It's because if they had done this on Friday as well, then you start to say, well, look, they've beaten the Clippers, the Thunder, the Toronto team that actually was playing reasonably well when they got to LA, and the Mavericks, and like it's this good run. And then they had these two games that were against terrible teams, and they ran them off the floor, and you feel like, okay, now they'd be 2 games over 500 again, and there's some momentum going into this stretch of games against more games against sub 500 teams after the Clippers game on Tuesday. But they didn't. They lost that game. And like you said, the only thing that this team has proven is that they are capable of beating any team in the NBA and losing to any team in the NBA on any day, which is why they are 22-22.
Yeah. I mean, look, I guess there are a few things that happened in this game that you could look at and say, okay, this means something. Like, for example, they were 13 of 33 from three, 39%. I think it's flown under the radar, but this team, I think, does not take enough threes to offset some of the other offensive issues that they have, or just to keep up with the Joneses in a 3-point centric league. But they are better from behind the arc than their reputation. Like their reputation as an awful shooting team is not really accurate anymore. Like the last 15 games, they're like 10th in the league for 3-point percentage. I'm looking at it right now. They're 9th in the league for 3-point percentage at 38%. Like that feels indicative of something that has actually improved over the course of the season that may not feel that significant because of all the other crap that's gone wrong during that period. But like them shooting 39% from behind the arc, that feels indicative of who they are. We'll talk about it. D'Angelo Russell is on a heater that has happened against good and bad teams. So The way D'Angelo Russell is playing right now, that feels real. I think Jared Vanderbilt continues to look really good since, over the last couple of weeks or so. Vando's playing well.
It's funny. Like, the 3-point stuff, for example, it's like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Well, who are the volume guys on this team for 3-point shots? It's LeBron, who, shot the ball well, Sunday night, and generally speaking has, the jumper is looking pretty good these days. And it's D'Lo. When D'Angelo Russell's back in the starting lineup, he is one of their volume 3-point shooters. LeBron and Russell on Sunday, between the two of them, took 19 3-pointers. So, I mean, like the percentage is going to live or die by what those guys are doing. LeBron was 3 of 8, perfectly acceptable. D'Lo was an excellent 6 of 11. And then, if a guy like Reeves, who has not shot the ball really as well as you would like from 3, he was 0 for 6 on Friday. He was 3 for 4 on Sunday. It's like, I agree with
Right. Taurean Prince did not play in this game with a sore knee. Rui Hachimura got the start ahead of Taurean, but Taurean is one of their.
Yes, you're right. Correct.
By this team's standard, he's a volume 3-point shooter, and he's been a bit of a slump lately. But for the most part, he's been pretty good this season.
Still shooting 40% for the season. Like all 3-point shooters go through ebbs and flows. I mean, Steph has 3 games where he might not shoot the ball great, and he is the greatest 3-point shooter in the league has ever seen, and it still happens to him. The offense is better. I think. Look, they've now gone to this offensive starting lineup, and when Taurean Prince is healthy again, he's going to go back into the starting lineup. And Hachimura started tonight for Prince, which I know made people, because that starting lineup from last year was sitting right there. And I get it, but I like I've said a few times, I'm just looking at Vanderbilt's minutes, and I'm looking at when he plays and with whom. And if Prince and Vanderbilt end up playing reasonably similar minutes and their deployments seem to make sense, I don't care who starts, particularly if the Lakers continue to get off to decent starts as they have in first quarters of late.
I mean, I do care who starts, like in the sense that I wouldn't say, talked about this before, I would start Vanderbilt. I think there are more reasons to start Vanderbilt than to start Prince. Mm-hmm. I don't consider starting Prince an indefensible decision. Like, I see the logic for it. I just think the logic, to me at least, favors starting Vando. What I would like, and I have not heard Darvin specifically comment about this or be asked about it, and it's been hard for Brian or I to get to the very few practices or shoot-arounds that they have. There aren't many of them. So if your our own availability has to line up really well in order for
we do not live, though, for people who don't understand, like we have in the past, but we do not currently live the lives of beat reporters.
Right. And we don't typically go to a lot of games because in order to get you guys this show as quickly as we can, it is much easier and you can be expedited more quickly doing it from home. Mm-hmm. That being said, though, I would love to ask Darvin just what about that lineup has made you hesitant to go back to it?
Hold on. I would like to know like what you think the answer is, because he's been asked about it, but never has really broken it down. I've seen it a couple times, but like he's just never really broken it down. I'm curious what you think the answer is. Let's do that next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by LinkedIn, and with each new year beginning, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question: what is the one move I can make that'll take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team you surround yourself with, and that's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. It's hard enough just to run your business. Wouldn't proven help to streamline that process be an incredible asset? Yes, it would be. Now, LinkedIn is not just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring becomes so easy that 86% of businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Think about that. Finding who you need the first time within a day. It gives you that much more time to focus on the big picture goals for 2024. And that's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
So it is, I don't object to the idea of them going back to this lineup. And, there are numbers from last year that, people can argue about like whether or not it was that lineup, whether the combinations, whatever, but it was obviously something that was effective for them. I'm focused on kind of the minutes at this point, because I'm just not waiting around for that lineup to come back. But you raise an interesting question. Like, he has been asked about like this lineup, but he's never broken down the exactly like why. Why am I not, he being Darvin, why am I not going back to this this thing that is now an option for them? What do you think the answer is?
If I were to guess, and again, this is purely a guess because we haven't had the.
By the way, the only thing that's available to you, Andy, is guessing, so I do not begrudge you for it.
I'm wondering if the limitations that we saw during the Western Conference Finals, or things that went wrong in the Western Conference Finals that forced Darvin to go away from that lineup, made him become more, I guess, either hyper aware or just hypercritical, and he's just been very conscious of it. Like, I'm putting myself in Darvin's hypothetical shoes right now. Like, you have an entire off season
in his pocket. You're putting yourself in his pockets, Andy. The people don't talk about shoes with Darvin. They only talk about pockets.
That's true. They feel like that's where all of his thoughts reside and stay. They just stay in those pockets.
The magic either happens or doesn't happen, but it's all
right. They just sit in those pockets, dying from lack of oxygen.
I understand why you initially were like, I don't know if that's where I want to be, but I hope you understand where I was going.
No, it does feel, if nothing else, for the many listeners and viewers who don't like Darvin, they'll at least get a chuckle out of that, phrasing it that way. But like, the idea of maybe you have an entire offseason after that Western Conference Finals to work with the tape that you have, thinking about for next season, what you didn't like about it. Flip side is, we heard a lot, and also both in terms of reports, but also stuff Darvin said, that there was at least a pretty good chance that they were going to go with that lineup of D'Lo, Reeves, Vando, LeBron, AD. Obviously, that got derailed if it was going to happen by Vando getting hurt in game 1 of the preseason and not returning for game 20. Maybe Darvin feels at this point they're kind of like too far. They're too far along, or he likes the way Torian's played, doesn't feel like he wants to bench a guy who's playing well for what will feel like no particular
and to be
reason.
fair, serves a very specific and meaningful purpose.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I would love the opportunity, hopefully in the near future, to ask Darvin directly, like not even just confrontational, but just like what is it about that group that you've been reticent to go back towards? Because he didn't even play the lineup very often.
No, he doesn't. I try really hard to not view, like, every year is independent. Every year is its own entity. And there are certainly things that you can learn from season to season about who your team is and what they're doing and all that kind of stuff. But like from year to year, you can't lean on last year and say because it worked last year, it will work the same this year. I think that's a huge mistake. And so when you get a situation like this one, there's part of me that, like, it gets really frustrated by it's right there, because there has been this thing, it's been so hard to settle on. Why not do the thing now that is available to you? The flip side is, like, if you do have something else, it would be another change. It would be something that requires them to shuffle the lineup a little bit. The James, Russell, Davis, Prince, Reeves lineup is, it's a positive. It is, it's an overall net positive. They're getting kind of what they want out of it. Obviously, D'Angelo Russell has responded pretty well to it. I'm not sure I would change it at this point, like, not without a reason, like, because the first quarters have gotten generally better. I think the offense operating in a functional way has helped them. So I'm almost like tempted to, like, not sort of disassociate like this from other parts of, like, criticism that I have from Darvin is, like, like Jared Vanderbilt and Cam Reddish on the floor together, which happened again, a few times on Sunday. And the first shift, it actually kind of worked pretty well. And then it didn't work. It's like, I'm going to put my attention on that stuff. They got a starting lineup that seems to be working okay.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think starting Prince is indefensible. It just isn't what I would do. You mentioned Reddish returning quicker than either one of us thought was going to be the case. The reports that have been coming out made it seem like he was going to be missing maybe several more games. I thought played pretty well.
Person for being disappointed he came back as fast as he did.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you understand what I mean, though. It's like they had a chance.
About you being a bad person? I know exactly what you meant.
No, I meant it, but this, for this specific reason, just because the Reddish issue, like, kind of shoehorning him in places where I feel like there's a diminishing return. I guess, look, Torian was hurt. You need a forward.
I'll say this: like, you sound like a bad person saying this after a game where he played well.
He did. It's just like it adds complication to a rotation that had looked like it had gained some clarity. And I think we can all agree, one of the places that Darvin has struggled with over the course of this season is places where clarity isn't maybe as readily available. I was enjoying the fact that, like, here's your obvious 9-man rotation and let's play that. No Prince tonight. We'll see what happens on Tuesday. We'll see what happens going forward. But I just don't want to go back to I want a coherent 9-man rotation, please.
Well, I mean, look, ultimately, if Cam Reddish returning means Darvin is, back deep in his pockets trying to come up with ideas, frankly, that's a Darvin Ham indictment, not a Cam Reddish indictment.
How upset, based on how he played, and Reddish did play pretty well tonight, and Christie was fine. He wasn't really a factor in the
Let me
game.
tell you something with Christie. There are times where I think he plays good defense. There are other times where I think he struggles to play defense without fouling. And there are other times where I think he has not even come close yet to earning the benefit of the doubt from referees. But however you want to slice it, Christie's inability to consistently play defense without getting called for fouls can become problematic.
He had a couple bad ones tonight. I think here's my question for you, and maybe you can start to answer and maybe carry it on. We'll talk to D'Lo about D'Lo, not talk to him, talk about him. Talk to him. We would have done that earlier in the show.
What a guest.
Hey, surprise guest for the third segment. If they did switch, if the 9-man rotation once Prince returns, assuming it's not a long absence, basically is what we've been seeing before, and you swap out Reddish for Christie. How you feeling about that?
I will tell you how I feel about that coming up next. Locked On Lakers is brought to you by BetterHelp, and it's a brand new year, which means a lot of anticipation about trying to be the best version of yourself and trying to set goals for a new year, whether professionally, personally, with your family. And that can be exciting, but it can also be really daunting. It can bring out a lot of anxiety for people. Sometimes it can bring out a lot of self-criticism, things like that. And to try to get yourself in a great place to move forward in this new year, therapy can be a really bright spot to help you with that anxiety, with the uncertainty, something to look forward to, actually, that makes you feel grounded, giving you the tools to manage things going on. I can personally speak to how much therapy helped me during a really difficult period in my life, for me and my family. Sitting down, talking with someone, it was huge. It was really a game changer. BetterHelp has connected over 3 million people with licensed therapists. It's convenient, accessible anywhere, 100% online, no waiting rooms, no traffic. Plus, it's affordable. So just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. And if things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. And if you want to live a more empowered life, therapy can get you there. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
Locked On Lakers also brought to you by FanDuel. If you did not get a chance to watch the playoffs this weekend, like the NFL playoffs have just been, been a couple clunkers, a few blowouts, but the good games, man, Andy, have been phenomenal. There is still time to get in on the action as we get into championship weekend with FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook. Right now, new customers, that could be you, get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is simple, easy to use. So many different ways to bet, like live same game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub. That's the best way to find the most popular parlays. And there's more. Just noodle around in there and find some fun stuff to do. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. So on the one hand, Andy, I think I've made it clear that I am still quite Cam Reddish skeptical, as things stand. He has had moments where he has undeniably played well, and I thought, especially after a layoff, made some really nice contributions in Sunday's game. The problem is consistency, and I think diminishing returns. That said, I feel often too like Max Christie, who I like as a player. I am also not as much of a Christie stan as a lot of people who follow us on, whether on Twitter or participate in the chats and all that kind of stuff. And I do think that Christie is kind of a vessel in the same way that Torian is a vessel for people's anger about the rotation of the minutes. Christie gets a lot of that in the positive way, which maybe people overlook some of his lesser performances. So if they did end up saying, the 15 minutes a night that's going to go to Christie is actually going to go to Reddish, the 15 to 20 and however you divide it up, where do you come down on that?
If it's going to be a firm decision, I'm fine with it. I mean, I've said before that between the two, because I brought this up last week, And it sparked some interesting conversation in the YouTube comment section, which always appreciate that. That's awesome. I think you can't play a 10-man rotation. And to really get guys, especially 7 through 10, in any type of real rhythm, but the other 6 guys around them, they have to get in a flow as well. I think it's very difficult to do that with 10 guys.
I agree.
And I'd said before, and this was when Torian was still healthy, that when Reddish came back, it felt to me like Darvin was going to be placed with a decision. And that decision really is between Christie and Reddish, because Christian Wood, his role is very specific, and he's the only guy on the team who can do it, backing up Anthony Davis. So when you start getting
unless you want to go back to Jackson Hayes, but
no, and I don't. And I don't want to regularly go to LeBron or Rui as small ball 5s unless you have to, or the matchup really dictates going smaller. So it feels like, practically speaking, it is a choice between Reddish and Christie. I had said before that I would have gone with Christie, in part because I think Christie can just be a little bit more predictable in certain ways, good and bad, but just predictable. But also the idea that if you're breaking the tie between 2 guys that I don't think there is a massive difference between them, and I would err on the side of the guy that may be part of your future moving forward, as opposed to Reddish, who I doubt will be, if for no other reason than his contract situation. If he outplays a veteran's minimum contract, the odds of him returning to the Lakers is pretty low. Mm-hmm. So again, all things being essentially equal, I don't think there is a big gap between them one way or the other. That is one of the reasons I would lean towards Christie. But if you're going to lean towards Reddish, what I want to see is just a firm decision and stick with it and be done with it. And it's just move forward.
A lot of when we talked about like starting Christie, for example, was in the comparison to some of the other lineup options that they had available and the stuff that they were doing. This is particularly true when Vanderbilt wasn't as useful as he has been.
Well, it was also when Reddish was starting.
Right. And it's my choice: Reddish starting or Christie starting. Like where and the offense is really struggling. Then you try to play Vanderbilt and Reddish together, and it's like I would love to see. I would love to give to them to have the breathing room to both let Christie to both maximize Christie's like good parts, because like the stuff that he's good at, he does pretty well. Like but it is. He, like Jared Vanderbilt, is somebody that needs at this point in his career to be deployed very specifically, because if you get him out of his lane, the results quickly turn. And on the one hand, it's good to develop prospects. The Lakers need to be able to do that and take guys, from the second round and turn them into rotation players. But this is also a season where you can't screw around.
Absolutely.
And so I was thinking about this morning with Cam coming back for Sunday's game. Like what do I do if like Reddish kind of plays well, outplays Christie, when he certainly did, I think, on Sunday.
In your case, complain about it. It would
right, and wish ill upon him.
I think we've seen what you're going to do.
I guess it's not that much a mystery.
You sort of walked into that one.
Yeah, that's true. This is covered ground. Mm-hmm. It gets back to this minutes thing, and maybe we'll save some of D'Lo, because D'Lo is becoming a really large topic as we get closer to the trade deadline. I want to see, when everybody's available, are we getting 25 minutes from Prince instead of 30? Are we getting 23 some nights instead of 28? Are we getting, 21 from Vanderbilt? Does that sometimes become 23, 24, 20? Sunday night's game was a blowout. So it's hard to get exact things on it. Is Reddish playing 35 minutes a game, 30 minutes a game? Because that's like the Torian problem. It's not that he plays, it's that he plays 32 minutes a game. It's like, how does we'll really get a chance to see what Darvin's thought process is over the next week, assuming Torian can come back. And I am both excited that they could get some clarity and a little concerned as to what might be clarified, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, look, I guess to be fair to the anxiety that Reddish clearly brings out in you, when you're talking about the minutes and the proper slotting of minutes, no matter how you feel about Max Christie, I think we can all agree the odds of Darvin playing him upwards of 30 minutes is really low unless there are a lot of guys hurt or Max Christie is just playing out of his mind. The odds of Reddish playing 30 minutes we've seen can happen regularly. So if you're thinking about what you would consider the proper allotment of minutes, in fairness to you, that is a wrinkle that Reddish presents that Christie just doesn't.
What does Darvin do when he has both a fully realized Vanderbilt, who is healthy, and as Darvin was talking about that, like he's feeling good again and all that kind of stuff, and a healthy Reddish?
Look, I'll just say this. Vando should be playing, I think, more minutes than not just Reddish, but Prince as well. Like between the three of them, to me, Vando should be playing the most minutes.
Yeah, I hope that's sort of where we're evolving to. Again, Sunday, you got to throw. I mean, look, the Lakers did great work on Sunday in terms of getting LeBron rest. He only played 31 minutes, very productive, 28 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 9 of 10 from the free throw line, which was really good to see him just constantly going downhill, basically shooting threes or attacking the basket on the break. Nice cruise control day for Anthony Davis. Only played 26 minutes. But to some degree, like that's what you want to see. Like some of these extra minutes that you hope to see from whether it's Vanderbilt, some people want to see it from Rui, some people want to see it from Max Christie. Like they come from LeBron, like keeping LeBron down to 31, 32, 33 minutes a night, as opposed to 38. You've got 5 minutes there. If you can sneak in another couple minutes with Anthony Davis off the floor or whoever it might be, that's where you're going to get some of these minutes for Christian Wood, who's played pretty well. It was a plus 20 on Sunday. We'll see. We'll set up tomorrow. But the D'Lo stuff is fascinating to me because he was barely talked about him on the show because so many other things. 34 points, 14 of 21 from the field, 6 of 11 from 3-point range, 8 assists, 2 blocks, no turnovers. He had a 2-0 block to turnover ratio. That is outstanding for a point guard.
Darvin said after the game that he thought this was the most complete game that D'Lo has played since returning to the Lakers. And he thought he was terrific on both sides of the ball. He's talked about D'Lo being a really good communicator when he's out there. LeBron said that he's doing a really good job just aggressively looking for a shot, but also he's clearly looking for other opponents as well. D'Lo made a couple of incredible plays. There was a behind back fake pass that he used to give himself some space to then lay up the ball. He also, too, on a breakaway, had LeBron trailing, and he bounced the ball up to set up LeBron for a dunk. I mean, LeBron, after the game, was like, yeah, those were some pretty sick plays. Like,
pretty dope.
He managed to impress LeBron. He also said, before we go, and this will give the listeners, the viewers, a little something to think about before Tuesday's show. Just keep this in the back of your mind. He was asked by D'Lo, by Mike Trudell, sideline reporter for the Lakers, after the game about the key to keeping up what happened against Portland moving forward for the rest of the week and then before the road trip. D'Lo said, quote, "Keep our confidence high, keep all of our problems in-house and work on it. And when we're ready to display it, put it on display for the world. We do that. We just got to stay tighten that group, stay connected."
That part about keeping the stuff in-house certainly got my attention too. I was like, ooh.
I just wanted to give everyone a little time to marinate on that one.
So we'll do this for tomorrow. We'll put up leave comments in the comments section about like where you are on D'Lo, because I think we can spend most of the show Tuesday talking about him, getting ready for the game against the Clippers, but really talking about D'Lo. And then maybe we'll put up a poll, like a yes or no. Like, do you want to trade D'Angelo Russell? And like lots of stuff goes into that. We'll read comments of that. But like, where are you on D'Lo? Because he has played really well at the very least. I think has made it clear that you need to make sure you get stuff back and skill sets back if you're going to move them out of town. So we'll look forward to that. Tease Tuesday's show. Lots of participation, hopefully, with your comments and thoughts there and answers to poll questions. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 22,000 subscribers, all of whom will be answering the very questions that we just asked you. Great game coming up on Tuesday. Another one of these watermark games for the Lakers. We'll see how they do it, and we'll get you ready for it. See everybody tomorrow.